What's up, everyone? We're here today with Ian because he did an Everest. And I'll start this video off. A few weeks ago, the 27th of November, I get a text from Ian, and it's just Strava data of hill repeats, and he climbed like 13,000 feet. 14,000 feet.
Yeah.
And my question was, what the are you doing? And he said, well, I'm training for an Everest. And I didn't even know what that was. So Ian, what's an Everest?
So an Everest is an attempt that you make on a bike on a single hill to climb the total height of Everest. So
which is how high?
8,848 meters or 29,029 feet. Yeah, so there's a whole like thing, they call it Everesting. It's actually a great website, everesting.cc, and it breaks down the rules, how to do it, all that stuff. But really simply, it's you pick a hill and you repeat it over and over and over again in one attempt until you reach the height of Mount Everest.
You're a lunatic!
I have to ask, why? What possessed you, or what has driven you to say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna do an Everest, let's go.
Why I do it is to do hard stuff. I think to prove it to myself I could do it.
I'm kind of one to always, I need some sort of goal or something out there to try and shoot for. One of the podcasts I was listening to during this long day was, it was a history one about the space race. And I'm sure you remember the speech by heart, but
yeah, absolutely.
It was the Kennedy speech, and it's so funny. I kept saying over again, he was like, we do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Right? That's my best.
That's your best. All right,
that's
pretty good. Yeah,
that was pretty good. I mean, where I ride in general, I think is a heavier ascending place to begin with. It's usually 1,000 feet per 10 miles, which is above average. So I was trying to do rides that was like 5,000 feet and 30 miles and that sort of thing, which is a lot.
That is a ton.
God damn, Jimmy.
But even then, I didn't have an intent to do an Everest then. It was that 14,000 foot day that I was like, I think, depending on how this goes, I think I'm gonna do it.
What did you take with you? What did you consume? What was helpful? What was not helpful?
Yeah, so I definitely I brought way more than I needed, which is always recommended. I actually broke it down.
Sweet, let's have it.
So I had 240 ounces of water, 3 sports beans, 2 chomps, 3 bags of Cheez-Its, 4 goos, 2 Pro Bars, and 8 salt pills. And the water was like, the water mix. So it was like trying to shoot for 250 to 350 calories per hour. There were a couple times I call it feeling fuzzy.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Fuzzy is a nice way to put it.
Couple times where I started to feel fuzzy, and I was like, eat a bar, get some carbs, get a salt pill and drink.
But when you're eating, you're moving, right? You're pedaling, you're not stopped.
I only ate on the climb. The climbs roughly take 26 to 30 minutes or so, and the descents take 4 to 8 minutes if I'm descending in daylight or dark. What was interesting, so my total moving time was 15 hours and 42 minutes. The elapsed time was 17 hours, 50 minutes. So almost 2 hours worth of stops. But like I never stopped for more than 8 minutes. I would stop at the top to put my jacket back on every time because it was cold. And then I would stop at they call it base camp, my car at the bottom of the hill, to put new bottles and restock the food.
What time did you start your Everest?
So the goal was to start at 1 a.m. on Saturday, December 17th.
Climb number 1, it's about 39 degrees.
The reason why I started so early was the goal was to finish when the sun was still out. I don't recommend doing this, 4 days away from the shortest day of the year.
Maybe not ideal.
Yeah.
Being the bike nerds that we are, or that I am, let's talk about equipment. What bike did you ride, and what did you bring with you, and what spare parts did you have? I want to know all of it.
The bike I did it on was the Cervelo R5. It had the Zip, I think it's the NSW wheels, SRAM, wireless obviously, 2x12.
So just the regular bike that you ride every morning?
Bike. I did get a larger cassette. Yeah, I had a backup bike, which is like a Mosaic, a Super Record 12 with
Sweet, yeah,
wheels.
that's a terrible backup bike to have.
It's a sledgehammer.
Dang. I had like this nightmare of getting a mechanical that I couldn't fix and having to stop
Tell me the story that you told the other day about running into people on your ride.
Yeah, so this is like a pretty common hill to ride in Santa Cruz. And most, I think most cyclists and most riders, especially over there, it was like, hey, how's it going? Blah.
Sure,
and you just see them once, right?
Yep.
There was one kid that was clearly doing hill repeats on the same hill. He looked like, he was like super skinny, fast, looked like a college
Kid.
rider.
Yeah, sure.
And he eventually caught up to me, and when he was passing me, he was like, what number, like, what hill repeat are you on?
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know at the time, and I was like, I think 17. And he's like, no, not miles. Like, what number hill repeat? And I was like, 17. And he's like, okay.
Like he was like, no, you're full of it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I've done 3 and I'm
he
going
was
home.
He was super nice, like waved by, like I was,
Yeah.
have a good time, like super nice. Yeah, that was.
I mean,
was a good
if
one.
I
wouldn't believe anyone.
if I
but
drove
yeah.
by you and I was like, yo, what lap is this? And you said 70, I'd be like, dude's full of shit.
Yeah,
There's no
exactly.
way.
You're like, yeah.
Okay, so what was harder than you thought and what was easier than you thought about completing the whole thing?
I thought getting through the first 6 hours was going to be hard just because it was so dark, or just riding that long in the dark. But that was fine.
Okay.
Watching the sunrise and the sunset was awesome.
Yeah, that sounds rad.
The hardest part was getting to like number 21, and I was like, oh sweet, I only have 5 left. And then realizing that was going to take me 3 hours. And when I started saying to myself, I was like, that's like a whole nother good ride.
Yeah. So if you're not a cyclist and you don't know what 29,000 feet means or
Feels like.
or what that feels like, what does that equate to?
So I was doing this math on the ride. So if you take the time, right, the total time that I'm riding and apply it to what would be a kind of average ride as far as hilliness and descent, right, not purely focused on climbing, you're looking at a 270-mile ride. Just to put it into perspective of like
Ride time versus
distance and versus elevation and all that stuff.
270 miles is a long ride.
Yeah.
And I'll probably never do that. Well, that concludes my interview with Ian, my crazy boss who just did an Everest. Thanks for watching. See ya.
See you, bye. So Everesting.cc has great guides on how to approach this. It's awesome. One thing I didn't see on there that I would definitely bring is, this is gonna sound so weird, is like toothbrush and toothpaste or mouthwash.